Hey guys, it's so freaking cold here in New England. I saw Frosty the Snowman in the supermarket produce aisle. He was picking his nose. It's not bad.
It's pretty nuts. It's
pretty nuts. How you guys doing? Patrick, are you in an undisclosed location?
I am. I'm in a southwest undisclosed location.
Southwest?
Mm-hmm. Southwest.
Okay. So you're in somewhere in Arizona or somewhere over there?
In the desert, yeah.
In the desert. All right, well, is it cold there?
It was 32 this morning, but now it's 60, so no.
Yeah, another big Arctic blast is hitting the United States. It's really going to get cold in the next few days. Everywhere.
Ugh.
I think like right here in New England where we are, we're right on the edge of ridiculously cold and just regularly cold. Yeah.
And inhumanely cold. Got it.
Inhumanely cold. Yeah, that's technical weather terms. All right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, can't complain about how much snow you've gotten because you really haven't gotten much yet.
Right.
Hey, says the man who's down south somewhere where it's warm.
I was home for the storm. Anyways, go ahead.
All right. So before we get started, I want to read a message that I got on Mastodon.
Nice.
And if you want to send me a message on Mastodon, I'm at carlfranklin@techhub.social. And this guy's name is Callie Hoppe. Callie Hoppe. We went back and forth with a phonetic pronunciation, and I'm sorry, Callie, if I messed up your name, but he says, "Hi, just wanted to say that I really love what you guys are doing in the Security This Week podcast and to ask a question. You've been talking about the importance of backups and most of all, restores. Do any of you have a tip on good backup solutions and strategies for personal use? I have a hybrid manual backup to a local hard drive plus a backup in the cloud, but it's not too convenient." So in other words, he wants a convenient solution that is also secure.
So there's lots of different ways to go. So let's talk about it first, whether you want to, something goes wrong with your computer, whether it's a ransomware or just a failure, and you need to replace the hardware or format the hardware and get back to where you were.
Right.
That's disk imaging. And for that, a lot of small companies will use Shadow Protect from ArcServe.
Shadow Protect?
And we've used it in the past, and it's good if you want imaging, but it's just going to do imaging. And it's not necessarily for novices. So if you want like a set it and forget it solution, then something that's more appropriate probably for novices would be something like Backblaze. I can't remember what the cost would it be, but there's lots of solutions out there. You can use some of the cloud providers to just back up your data, which means you'd probably be rebuilding your operating system, but your data gets protected. And the beauty of that is you can go and verify what's backed up.
Yeah. And just to tail on that. So what I do at home, unless you're trying to profile me, then maybe it's not what I actually do at home, but it is. So I have a Synology at the house, which is just a network attached storage. And I run the Synology backup agent on each of my computers. And I select what I want to back up and I back it up to the Synology. And then I have that Synology back up to another location. But here's the key. I have the Synology. I don't have SMB access to it. So your computers can't connect to it as just a shared drive. And the reason I do that is because multiple fold, but the main reason is if ransomware were to hit one of my computers,
of course,
it's going to reach out to the NAS, but it doesn't have access to the NAS, right? So my backup stream still works. So yeah, that's what I do. And I'm really big into not backing up the entire operating system. I know we talk a lot about,
yeah, me too.
When's a backup, not a backup? Well, you should restore it and blah, 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 whatever. And that's true for business. Like if I have a SQL server that's running production, data and whatever, you got to restore it. You got to make sure it works. But for my
mail servers,
for my personal desktop, like just this week, my personal desktop crashed. The hard drive crashed, right? It doesn't matter, right? I reinstall the Windows operating system and then I can just restore my files. So I'm not into back up the whole operating system because a lot of crap comes with that. But backing up the data, you should be able to do that. So I would use an agent.
You go through operating systems like other people do Kleenex.
Yes, I do.
Well, it's also more tricky to back up your operating system. I mean, restoring, booting a restored operating system is near impossible.
Yes.
I find. And it's unnecessary because you just reinstall Windows and boom. What you really need is the first thing I do is when I get a new system is I move my desktop documents, downloads, pictures, music, all those folders off the C drive and onto some other drive that I can back it up, because then I don't have to worry about, my boot drive crashed. Where are my documents? And now if you try to mount that drive on the new system and you got to get permissions to get your own data back, and it's blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, imaging is a challenge. I agree.
Yeah.
I like the idea of just backing up your data, but it's not as nothing a task for many people installing a new operating system, getting a new system as it is for Dwayne.
Yeah.
But I do recommend it because it also is like with your phone. When you get a new phone, if you don't restore from the old phone, you get a cleaner phone.
Right.
You don't have this much crapware. What I will say is, because I also do that, I have an apps directory that I keep up to date, and it has all the software that I want to install ready to go. So if I need Chrome, whatever, I have I don't have Chrome there, but I have a reminder there so that if I do have to build this on a new laptop or a new system, I have a laundry list of these are the things that I'm going to install to get my system back to where I want it.
Have you guys used Chocolatey?
I haven't.
I love the name.
Yeah. So we're programmers. So you know about NuGet, right?
Yeah.
N-U-G-E-T.
Oh.
So Chocolatey is kind of a play on NuGet, but for Windows. It's a package manager for Windows.
Oh, that's cool.
So so basically all your apps, you can make package managers for them. And then when you go to install a new machine, you just run your script and it installs everything for you.
Oh, wow.
And it's usually headless and you don't have to worry about UI and all that stuff.
That's neat.
Chocolatey is good stuff.
I may have to look into that.
And so I also want to mention that I use Dropbox, and I bought like the Primo Dropbox Pro account, right? And at that point, when you're spending that much money, and it's really not all that much, really, if you want peace of mind, you have unlimited storage. So basically what they say is, you need more storage? No problem. They're not going to start upping your monthly bill. But the problem with Dropbox is, now I have a 10 terabyte data drive that's backed up to Dropbox. Oof. So everything that I put in that data drive backs up. Then I kind of got low on space. Now I'm talking about, I have years of studio recordings and podcast recordings and videos that I've done of my band and other things. Like, I have a lot of big files, and that's why I wanted to back it up. But then I sort of ran out of space and I put another 10 terabyte drive and I started putting things in there. And now the problem with Dropbox is that it wouldn't recognize the second drive. Like, you have to start at a particular route. And I think I messed around with virtual drive letters and all that stuff, and that didn't work. So I ended up using Boxifier. And Boxifier is this additional tool that allows you to sync and back up any folder, any Dropbox. So they're right on the Boxifier.com page. It says, Dropbox is great, but it only syncs what you put in your Dropbox folder. Boxifier makes Dropbox sync any folder you want, and you can have multiple folders.
Oh, nice.
So that's good. But we talked a little bit about offline stuff too, right? So in a perfect world, Patrick, what I should have is some sort of offline NAS or something like that.
Yeah.
And how would I sync up to that? I mean,
that's a good idea. One of the things you could do, like Synology is a great solution. I actually have two Synologies where I am, and they're in different buildings. So they replicate to each other. And I use a similar strategy to what Dwayne does. But if you have a Synology and you have that kind of backup data, what you could do is bring it online, replicate the data, and then you could use it to back up the drive you have as another backup, and then just disconnect it, pull it from the network when you're not actively backing up.
Okay.
So maybe the first weekend of the month, you plug it in, you hit a button, it runs the backup, and then when you're done, you unplug it, and you've got an offline backup.
And then move it to a different physical location, preferably.
Yeah, preferably.
Yeah.
But,
or in your basement.
Put it in a safe.
Put it in a safe.
I love the fact that there's this manual process, but the thing I hate about the manual process is I can't even get my kids to pick clothes up off the floor, never mind, remember to move a drive around. So honestly, I've been really kind of investing a lot of time in how do I back data up in a way that protects it, but it's still online. Like take, for example, the Synology. If I shut off all SMB shares, the only way to access it is through the apps API, right? Or I could turn on something like FTP, right? Not super convenient for me to get the files. Or the only way I could get access to it is through the web page, right? So I go to the web page and I can see the files that were backed up there.
And it requires credentials.
Right, exactly. And those credentials, I'm not going to save anywhere. I'm not keeping, so that even if somebody were to compromise my computer and try and leverage the credentials in a browser or whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't have them there. So, for me, I love the, plug a drive in, remember to do it at the beginning of the month, but, it's like switching the filters on your furnace. I'm sure we all do it every 6 months like we're supposed to. But yeah, another way to think of it is taking it offline doesn't necessarily have to mean physically removing it. Taking it offline could mean, using protocols that aren't going to be as widely compromised. A little bit more risk, but guaranteed you're going to leave it online and actually be backed up.
Now, that doesn't protect you from fire.
No. It doesn't.
Because you still have all your eggs in that basket.
You have to move it offsite.
The advantage of the physical offsite is you get protection from like floods and other disasters, tornadoes and fire.
But you know what? If you have a tool shed, right? Mm-hmm. You could put it in your tool shed and just build some kind of protective or put it in a safe. Fireproof safe, and put it in your tool shed. So if your house burns down, your safe won't melt. Now somebody burns down your tool shed, you're screwed. But
yeah, exactly.
At a certain point, you got to just take some kind of risk, don't you?
Oof.
The problem with the tool shed is the security of that building.
Right.
Probably is not as secured as you'd want, because then I'd just go.
Oh, sure, but a safe is secure, right? You put
if it's heavy enough.
You put a safe in the tool shed. You put your NAS in the safe.
Yep.
I mean, how many other people think about this at home?
Oh, I know.
I mean, and I'm looking
Not
at
enough.
the Synology things, right? So here's like a Synology 5-bay disk station NAS, 5-bay, 40 terabyte bundle with 5 8-terabyte drives for $2,200.
Yeah, that's a lot of money sometimes.
Here's a 24 terabyte bundle with 2 12 terabyte drives for $1,000. You can get one that's diskless 2-bay for $249. You can get a diskless 5-bay or a 6-bay for almost $500, $448. So
yeah, they're cheap, but the discs are not.
Yeah.
But the discs are getting cheaper, though. I mean,
they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing you need to think about is you should, just like all the stuff in your attic, you should get rid of some of that data if you don't need it.
Well, there's that.
If it's family photos, you should have a couple of 1 terabyte USB drives. And you should back it up and give one to your cousin, and then back it up and then give one to your aunt, and then back it up and give one to your other uncle, and disseminate them so that they're a living testament instead of they're all in my one system.
I have archive data, right? And this is what I was saying before. I have studio archive data. I have this archive data. And when somebody comes to me and says, hey, you remember that album that we recorded at your studio, 10 years ago? Do you still have that? I mean, I guess it would have been...
Just say no.
Yeah, just say no. I have since started requiring...
Just say no.
I have since started requiring artists to bring their own hard drives and then take them with them when they leave.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of these old things and a lot of videos of the band and stuff that I really want to keep around. I don't need to, but I want to keep it around.
Well, for pictures, and maybe this is very passe for a security professional and somebody who might be concerned about privacy, but there are a lot of online cloud services that will keep unlimited amount of photos for free.
Well, Dropbox, not for free
until they go out of business.
No, but like Amazon, you could, if you're an Amazon Prime member, you have unlimited photo storage. You can upload as many photos as you want forever.
I just don't feel comfortable enough,
With old Jeffy?
I feel less comfortable about Amazon keeping my photos than I do a NAS in a safe in a woodshed.
Yes, I like that. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start putting hard drives up in space on a satellite, and we can sync them there.
That's a great idea.
Right? And that way nobody can grab them.
And cost effective and convenient. It's the best of all worlds, Dwayne.
Carl, do you want space on my satellite? You can have space on my satellite.
Yes, absolutely.
So you know what? If you send me your data, I will keep it safe as long as you never ask for it back.
Thank
as long
you.
as you promise to never ask for it back, I will take care of your data.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'll take care of your data for you.
All right. Well, Callie, I hope we answered your question. I don't know if we have, but
yeah, hopefully. I really hope.
We gave you a few links and a few tools, and between the 5 of them, you can probably figure something out. All right, so let's talk about the week's security news, starting with this one from Security Week. Chinese hackers deliver malware. Hey, free delivery.
I know, right?
To Barracuda email security appliances via new 0 day. Hey, aren't all 0 days new?
Yeah.
By default?
That's a great point. Yeah.
New and improved.
I'd love to see the old 0 day.
The old 0 day was much better.
If something's new, how can it be improved?
All right, who wants to unpack this?
First of all, it's been a while. I don't know if these are the same devices that Barracuda's been saying, just unplug them and throw them away. Remember that?
There's security gateways? No. Yeah, they have, but they had older versions of those that they said throw out, and the newer versions, well, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you should throw those out too? Is that what you were saying?
I can't confirm nor deny whether you should throw those out.
I'm sorry, but no security podcast is more fun than Security This Week.
You know it. You know it.
I mean, if you can't laugh about this stuff, what are you doing?
You cry all the time.
You're crying then.
Yes, and you drink heavily.
Well, we do that anyway, but okay.
Yeah, there's that.
So what about this?
So yes, this
China hack.
Yeah, this is this has to do with a vulnerability that there really isn't a patch for, hence the 0 day. In a spreadsheet parse Excel library. So if you're using these functions, the email gateway doesn't necessarily protect you against them. This is the entry point that they're using, is this function to then launch remote code execution and then from there take over your systems and then the world.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically they send an email to the device that the device processes inappropriately, and then that gets them remote code execution, I think. And then they take over the gateway.
The new flaw tracked as CVE 2023-7102 and described as an arbitrary code execution vulnerability impacts spreadsheet : parse Excel, which is an open source library used by Amavis virus scanner, which is present in all of the ESG devices.
Oh, so what do we tell people, to unplug their Barracuda gateways?
This is tough. Honestly, we've seen this a couple times now, where the antivirus program on the security device is the one that's getting compromised. Because this is an antivirus that's looking through it.
It's like an autoimmune disease,
right?
Isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, I'm sure at some point it will be updated. If you're not using these types of files or expecting these types of files, you could block them outright. Don't have antivirus even open them or check them. But the recommendations from Barracuda are try and remediate the best you can.
That's not a recommendation. Try to maintain common order.
Here's a spoon. Good luck.
Leave the building.
Why a spoon? Because we were out of forks.
Yeah.
Unplug everything and exit the building.
So here's the deal. It's great to rely on technology and infrastructure to do the job that you wish your users could do. But there's no replacement for having the human firewall, having your people trained, having them actually understand what phishing is, what not to click on. And this is a perfect example. If you're an organization that has one of these things and you already have the steps necessary to unplug it and route mail. Well, now your users are exposed and they better know what not to click on.
Right.
And so that's the actual first line of defense. It's the last line of defense in most cases, but it's the first. Or an organization has to have multiple layers of these kinds of email gateways from different vendors to protect against it, which I think is probably a bridge too far for 99% of organizations.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to train your users. They have to know what to click on and what not to click on. And even then, I think when you have this kind of incident, you still have to unplug the device, because if you don't, it's possible that it can do things because of its privileged position.
But isn't this like a critical device in the line of networking? I mean, if you unplug it, you have no defense. I mean, do you have to buy something else? Yeah. Do you have to buy something else and replace it until they patch it?
Well, many organizations do not have an email security gateway, but more spam and phishing and malware gets through to their users. The guys at KnowBe4 say that 7 to 10% of all phishing attempts get through all technology, no matter how good your mailbagging is, no matter how... We use mailbaggers and we use cloud-based email services. And our mailbagger still catches phishing and malware. And then we still see phishing and malware that gets down to our mailboxes. And we do simulations to make sure that our people aren't clicking on the wrong things. And we do training.
So if you were a CIO, Patrick, of a company and you had one of these Barracuda email gateways, what would you tell the guys in the IT department? Would you tell them, try to find a replacement for it until they patch the bug, take it off, and let everybody know, hey, you're going to get an inordinate amount of spam probably for the next week?
Yeah. That one. Because the problem is, no matter how fast they find another solution, they're not going to implement it in 30 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Unless you've researched it beforehand.
And there's a lot of solutions out there, right? The top competitors to something like this would be Microsoft, Cisco, Sophos, Fortinet, Mimecast, SonicWall, Proofpoint, or Trend Micro.
None of which are cheap.
None of those are cheap.
That's not enough.
I know, right? So we use Microsoft. Configured properly, Microsoft does a really great job. So, I think if we've seen the writing on the wall occasionally here with Barracuda, they run into a lot of issues. If you want to move off of them, there are plenty of opportunities to do so.
But we do use another mailbagger as in addition to Microsoft, and that still catches, for me, 30 to 50 spams a day, and then a few malware every day. So it's basically levels of sieves. Your organization is not going to go out of business because you turn off the ESG. Your email, you still have to know how to do that so the email keeps flowing, right? But your users will see a big uptick in dangerous email, and you can warn them. But if they haven't been trained in what not to click on, the warning's useless. The training is the first step, because the other side of it is this. I saw a statistic the other day. I don't know if it's right, but it said that like 80% of malware coming into a company is through BYOD, meaning it's coming in on a device that is unmanaged and it is coming from a home. So you got people at home with laptops or tablets, and they're clicking on the wrong things, and they're infecting their devices, and then they're connecting their devices to your networks. It's one of the most important things you can do other than patching is to train your users, and most organizations don't.
Yeah, or they try and everybody ignores the rules. Yeah. All right, guys, I know this was only one story and a whole bunch of backup stuff, but we got to take a little break, so we'll be right back after these very important messages. And we're back. You're listening to Security This Week. I'm Carl Franklin. Those are the experts, Dwayne LaFlotte and Patrick Hines. How are you guys? I hope you enjoyed that break. I know I did. Let's talk about red teaming and why Federal News Network thinks it's crucial, or Jonathan Trull thinks it's crucial to the success of Biden's executive order on AI.
Why I've never heard of red teaming. I'm just kidding. That's what we do.
That's what you do.
So here's the thing. A red teaming, and I shouldn't be talking about it because Dwayne's in charge of our red teaming.
I want to see what you think I do.
Red teaming. Nothing. They do nothing.
Nothing as far as you know.
Oh, wow.
No.
Wow.
So the idea of red teaming is like, if you write a document, you might be a fantastic writer, but if you write there instead of there, and you don't know which one I'm saying, but you know that they're both different. you're not going to catch it no matter how many times you read that, because it's a mistake that you're blind to. And that is absolutely true for network configurations, for software development, for everything. People don't see the mistakes they're making, especially if they're not trained cyber professionals. And so every organization and every insurer that is doing cyber insurance should understand and knows that you need to have another set of eyes to check it. And that's what red teaming is. A red team is like a pen test on steroids. With a pen test, the client says, I want you to check this server, and I want you to look at this interface, and I want you to do this. But the problem is the client's not an expert in how the hackers are going to get in. We are. And so with a red team, they hire us to come at them like a set of hackers would, and knock on the doors and look at the systems and let the evidence take us where it will, instead of them prescribing an exercise. So it's kind of like a military live fire exercise. But instead of saying, okay, you guys are going to flank this way and you guys are going to do this way, instead of micromanaging a scenario that's useless, we let the battle unfold and we see what we find.
Right.
And so it's a really great way to find the problems. How did I do, Dwayne?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you did amazingly well on red teaming. I'm impressed.
As
I'm impressed.
we expected.
Yeah, I know.
As with
Patrick Hines.
Only took 15 takes.
Yeah, but that's absolutely right. I mean, it's like a lot of people, if you put up defenses or even have defensive plans of some sort, a house is on fire, right? We should go somewhere, right? That plan of testing where to go and whether it works, and how you could, how you're vulnerable and that sort of stuff is only a plan unless you actually test it out. And having red teamers actively attack your organization shows you things that you didn't think were even possible. Right, exactly. And then if you have a team of experts who are solely focused on TTPs, like solely focused on what they see in the field, solely focused on, the latest and greatest attack vectors, you can't have just a normal IT staff focused on that all the time, which changes every second, and focused on maintaining normal, continuity of business. So really, having red teamers come in who that's their job, is to break stuff, understand how to break through, and then explain how to fix it. Makes sense.
So what this story is talking about is the fact that the Biden administration is trying to get security for cloud and AI, cloud-based AI, and red teaming is going to be an integral part of that.
Yeah. So this is the October 30th executive order on artificial intelligence, just part of it, that he said that red teaming has to be a big part of this defense.
Well, because otherwise its organizations will be creating themselves.
Yeah.
Organizations will say, this is secure. And they don't think about it, especially AI. AI is a whole nother level for doing red teaming. We're doing it right now. We're actually actively involved in AI-based, LLM-based, FLM-based, FLLM-based red teaming.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a separate set, it's a different set of skills, but it's still not something you can do in-house.
All right, let's move on to Ivanti, unless you guys have something else to say about that one.
No.
Nope.
All right. So this is an Ars Technica article from January 5th. Ivanti warns of critical vulnerability in its popular line of endpoint protection software. Customers of the Ivanti Endpoint Protection Manager should patch or mitigate ASAP.
Anybody want to guess what the exploit is on this? Anybody?
It's probably something really stupid. Is it SQL injection?
Oh, Carl gets it. Yeah.
Wow. No kidding.
Oh man, it's SQL injection. It's like
not SQL injection again, Mom.
You ever watch those Scooby-Doo? Like you watch those old Scooby-Doo cartoons, and then at the end, like usually at the end, they pull the mask off, and you're like, oh my god, I didn't think it was him. But there's occasionally an episode where you're like,
groundskeeper,
meddling kids.
Oh, it's the groundskeeper. Oh, it's the groundskeeper, and they pull it off, and you go, ugh, it was the groundskeeper.
I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids.
So SQL injection is the butler.
It's like Bullwinkle and Rocky, right? Where, hey, Rocky, watch me get into this system. SQL injection again.
So somewhere out there, there's a CISO who just blogged that they've just secured their organization by implementing the ESG from Barracuda and Ivanti. Yeah. And they're really that did not age well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I like a nice Ivanti.
Okay. So this is endpoint protection software, endpoint protection manager.
Yeah.
So if you're using that, you need to patch. And apparently the next story is in the Hacker News the same day that Avanti released a patch for
Which
that.
Honestly is good on them for patching as quickly as they did. I mean, the CVSS score on this was a 9.8, so relatively important. But the fact that it was SQL injection still makes me sad, makes me cry on the inside a little bit. But
yeah, me too.
But yeah, I'm glad they fixed it. If you are running Avanti and you're running the endpoint manager, by all means, go and patch before somebody decides to do some nasty things.
All right.
Yeah, well, there's actually, if you look at it, if the core server is running SQL Express, then there's a chance that they could get remote code execution on the core server.
Not a chance.
Well, we don't really have any clickbait story for you this week, but we are going to end with some good news. Microsoft fixes critical flaws in Windows Kerberos and Hyper-V.
Hi, Buffy.
Thank you, Microsoft.
Yeah, this one's mildly intriguing. I mean, Kerberos, for those of you who aren't playing around in authentication land all the time, used to be you'd go to access a resource on a server and you'd supply your username and password. And then they went, well, that's not really secure. So now they said, well, let's not do that. Let's have you just supply a hash of your password. So your clear text password's not going over the network.
Right.
And then they found, well, that's not so secure. So they said, let's switch over to Kerberos. And Kerberos is a system where I can go to, on top of the fact that it's not secure, just passing around usernames and passwords or hashes. The other problem is if we have 10,000 people in the organization, we all have to check in with the one person who knows the usernames and passwords, which was the domain controller. And that bogs down the domain controller, and it gets to the point where it just can't do anything anymore.
This is behind the firewall windows, not websites.
Exactly. So what would happen, what they did is they switched over to this ticketing system where you can request a resource ticket, get granted a ticket and access to a resource for a period of time, like 8 hours. So there's no need for you to go check with the global authority again and say, hey, here's my username and password. Can I access this printer? They're like, no,
like
you're
a backstage
good.
pass.
Yeah, exactly. You got the ticket, pass the ticket on to them. They can verify the ticket and you're good to go. That's what Kerberos is in a very 50,000 foot view. So this is interesting because a lot of those tickets are, they're encrypted. They're wrapped. The permissions are wrapped in a particular encryption around that ticket. Can only be opened by the resource, et cetera, et cetera. So they're supposed to be relatively secure. And here there is a critical flaw that was discovered. Where now this is where we're going to dial this down a little bit. This is going to get some hype, but we're going to dial it down a little bit. If you are man in the middle. So if I'm in the middle of the conversation between the client and the server.
And that's not easy to do.
It's not easy to do, and they have to be on your network. But they can convince the client that they are a Kerberos server and can issue the tickets.
It's kind of like the pineapple.
And then at that point, they have the ability, they have the ability to step in the middle. So, yeah.
Kind of like the...
And they fixed that now.
Yeah, so it's fixed.
Yes. Yep, it's been fixed. Yep, absolutely. Neat find. I believe this was a Pwn to Own. I love watching Pwn to Own. It's like my esports. It's like my what do they call that football court game thing? Super Bowl. I don't know. There's whatever. There's a sports
that
thing. Sports. Thing? There's like a
World Series.
Yeah. There you go. It's something, whatever. But for us nerds, it's Pwn to Own. Just watching a lot of these researchers in a competition actually go head to head.
Oh my God, he's in a for loop. Oh, he jumped out. It's okay.
It's a lot like that, actually. And it's like, they'll have a printer there, right? And they'll be like, okay, the exploit here is to put the researcher's logo on the printer's LCD. Let's see what happens. Right? And you'll see like the printer shut off and reboot and lights flashing and then the logo pops up. Oh yeah, he nailed it. Look at that. Wow, he's gonna go. Yeah, so
he stuck the landing.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be an Olympic sport anytime soon, but
yeah.
I think Tiddlywinks is, so you probably could have hacking as
Can
a
you
sport.
say Tiddlywinks on a podcast?
I'm pretty sure.
I'm not sure. That sounds really dirty.
I'm almost positive it's an Olympic sport.
Okay. All right, guys, it's time for me to put on my 1,000-pound parka and go get the mail. So
Oh, my God.
I guess we'll see you next week.
Good luck. See you guys later. I'm going to go turn on the AC.
Yeah, screw you. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.